Welcome. Settle in comfortably. Close your eyes and allow your body to relax. Today we embark on a journey far beyond the confines of our world, deep into the heart of the cosmic night. Imagine a place where the darkness is absolute, where there is not a single star, not a single ray of light, a void, cold and silent. But what if I told you that precisely there, within this all-consuming blackness, something alive was discovered? Something that glows and pulses like a vast, tranquil heart. This discovery challenges everything we know about the universe. This story is more than just a tale of distant worlds. It is an invitation to touch the mystery and perhaps, in its rhythm, find stillness for a deep and serene sleep. Are you ready to hear the heartbeat of the universe? Let us begin. Since the dawn of time, humanity has gazed upon the night sky with awe and curiosity. The darkness of space has always been synonymous with the unknown, with infinity, and with deep mystery. It both beckoned and terrified us. We built observatories, launched telescopes, peering further and further, striving to unlock its secrets. We discovered galaxies, nebulae, quasars, and black holes, objects of unbelievable power and beauty. But at the core of our search lay a simple assumption. Where there is light, there is something interesting. And where there is no light, there is only emptiness. We looked for life near bright stars, studying the light that traveled millions of years to reach us. But we barely paid attention to the great cosmic voids, giant regions of space almost devoid of galaxies. We dismissed them as boring, dead deserts of the universe. And this was our crucial mistake, because it was in one of those very deserts, at the heart of the primordial darkness, that our story began. It was there, where no one expected to find anything, that the first impulse was heard, faint yet perfectly rhythmic. Our journey begins in silence. Not the kind of silence we're accustomed to on Earth, where there's always the rustle of wind or the distant hum of a city. This was absolute, cosmic silence. Imagine a massive radio telescope, a giant dish, listening intently for the breath of the universe. For days, months, years, it scanned one of the darkest and most desolate patches of the sky, a sector known as the Great Void, a region spanning hundreds of millions of light-years, almost completely devoid of galaxies. Scientists expected to hear nothing but residual background noise, the faint echo of the Big Bang. This was intended as a routine equipment calibration, a simple sensitivity check. But then one day, through the monotonous hiss of the cosmos, a signal broke through. It was incredibly faint, right on the very edge of detection. But it was there. And it was strange. Unlike the chaotic bursts of energy from distant quasars or the fading hum of relic radiation, this signal possessed structure. It was ordered. It arrived at perfectly regular intervals, precisely once every 3.7 seconds. No faster, no slower. Precise like clockwork. It was like sitting on the shore of a silent ocean and suddenly, amidst the chaos of the waves, hearing a distinct, measured knock. The first question the astronomers asked themselves was simple. Was this interference, equipment error, a signal from an Earth satellite? A long and painstaking investigation began. They ruled out one possibility after another. The signal resembled nothing man-made. It originated from the exact same point, in the very center of the Great Void. And it did not stop. Day after day, week after week, tick-tock, tick-tock. The heart of the darkness had found its voice, and the scientific world held its breath, trying to understand what it was attempting to say. This monotony, this predictability, wasn't frightening. On the contrary, it was profoundly reassuring. It was as if the universe itself had decided to share its rhythm, its very breath, and that rhythm slowly began to permeate the minds of those who listened, attuning them to a wave of deep cosmic serenity. Once it was confirmed that the signal was real and genuinely emanating from deep space, the next phase began: classification. The first and most obvious hypothesis was a pulsar. Pulsars are rapidly spinning neutron stars, the stellar remnants left behind after a giant star explodes. They possess powerful magnetic fields and emit beams of radiation that sweep across the cosmos, much like a cosmic lighthouse beam. When that beam crosses Earth, we register a sharp pulse. Many pulsars are known for their astonishing precision. They are among the most stable clocks in the universe. It seemed at first that the mystery was solved, but the longer scientists analyzed the data, the more inconsistencies began to surface. First, the pulse period, 3.7 seconds. That is far too slow for the vast majority of known pulsars. They typically spin much faster, completing dozens, sometimes hundreds of rotations per second. While slow pulsars do exist, they are usually ancient and faint. This signal, however, while subtle, carried the imprint of colossal energy. Second, its spectrum. Radiation from pulsars has characteristic spectral features that allow us to determine the star's composition and the strength of its magnetic field. But the spectrum of this signal was pristine. It lacked the usual lines of absorption or emission. It was smooth, ideal, almost as if its source were not composed of regular baryonic matter. And third, and most importantly, the location. Pulsars are born from supernova explosions, cataclysmic events that leave behind vast clouds of gas and dust, known as nebulae. Yet the source of this signal was located in absolute nothingness. For millions of light years around, there was nothing that could have spawned it. No trace of an ancient catastrophe, no remnants of a progenitor star. It was utterly alone. A solitary beacon in an endless ocean of darkness. The pulsar hypothesis crumbled, leaving behind far more questions than answers. This object broke the rules. It refused to fit neatly into our carefully constructed catalogues and classifications. It was something entirely new. And the realization of this brought not panic, but genuine, profound awe. The universe had once again shown us that it is far more complex and astounding than we can possibly imagine. And that slow, steady pulse from nowhere continued to sound like a cosmic lullaby, reminding us that the greatest wonders are often hidden exactly where we least expect to find them. Having ruled out the pulsar hypothesis, the scientific community turned its attention to other known cosmic phenomena. Could it be a quasar? Quasars are the active cores of galaxies, powered by supermassive black holes greedily devouring surrounding matter. This process unleashes an incredible amount of energy, making quasars some of the brightest objects in the universe. Some do exhibit periodic variations in brightness, but this version quickly failed scrutiny. The signal was far too stable, too monochromatic. Quasars are chaotic, raging monsters. Their emission flickers and changes. It never demonstrates such metronomic precision. Furthermore, as we established, our source was located in a void, whereas a quasar is the heart of a galaxy, surrounded by billions of stars. The next idea was a black hole. Perhaps we were observing some process linked to a stellar mass black hole, for instance, matter falling onto it from an accretion disk. Such events can sometimes cause quasi-periodic oscillations, but again, it was a miss. This kind of process requires a steady source of matter, a companion star, or a gas cloud, and there was absolutely nothing orbiting our mysterious object. Moreover, the signal's spectrum bore no resemblance whatsoever to the emission of matter heated to millions of degrees as it plunges into a gravitational abyss. More exotic hypotheses were considered. A collision between two neutron stars or black holes. No, such events generate a short, incredibly powerful burst of gravitational waves and electromagnetic radiation, after which everything subsides. Our source, however, pulsed continuously. Dark matter annihilation? Some theories predict that in dense concentrations of dark matter, particles might annihilate, producing gamma rays. But the signal was in the radio band, and its characteristics simply did not match model predictions. Every new hypothesis, every attempt to explain the phenomenon using the known laws of physics led to a dead end. It was like trying to solve a puzzle where the most crucial pieces were missing. Scientists sifted through all their knowledge, all their theories, but none of them fit. The object in the heart of the void remained an enigma. It simply existed, defying all our assumptions. And this slow process of elimination, this gradual realization that we had encountered something fundamentally new, had a strange meditative effect. It cleared the mind of bias, forcing researchers to abandon habitual thinking patterns and simply listen. Listen to that calm, steady rhythm, the rhythm of the unknown. And in that ignorance there was not anxiety, but freedom. The freedom to accept that the universe is full of mysteries, and we don't have all the answers right now. When all the standard explanations had been exhausted, it was time for a deeper look. We needed to do more than just listen to the signal. We had to locate and observe its source. The world's most powerful telescopes, covering every range from infrared to X-ray, were focused on the exact point where the mysterious rhythm originated. The results were stunning. Nothing, absolutely nothing. In the optical range, the location was blacker than the blackest night. No star, no nebula, no galaxy. Infrared, which allows us to peer through dust and detect cold objects, showed the same profound void. And in the X-ray and gamma-ray bands, which reveal the universe's hottest, most energetic processes, cosmic silence. The source was invisible. It radiated exclusively within the narrow radio band where it had been initially detected. This was unbelievable. Any known astrophysical object capable of generating such immense energy should have shone brightly in other parts of the spectrum. Hot gas, magnetic fields, relativistic particles all leave detectable signatures. But here there was nothing. It was as if someone or something had created a perfect transmitter operating solely on a single frequency. But then, after months of painstaking data analysis, a breakthrough was finally achieved. Using the technique of interferometry, where multiple radio telescopes scattered across continents combined to form one virtual Earth-sized dish, astronomers managed to produce an image. It was blurry, indistinct, and pushed the absolute limits of technology. But visible within it was a speck of light, a tiny, dim spot that appeared and vanished in perfect rhythm with the radio signal. They had seen it. They had found light in the center of the darkness, and that light was pulsing. It flared up, reached its peak brightness, and then smoothly faded, only to ignite again exactly 3.7 seconds later. It was a mesmerizing sight, a slow, majestic breath of light in absolute emptiness. This was nothing like the jarring, rapid bursts of a pulsar. This was a smooth, almost organic beat. It felt like watching a deep-sea creature emitting a slow, bioluminescent glow. This was more than just a physical phenomenon. There was beauty in it. There was harmony. And watching that distant, solitary spark, it was impossible not to feel a profound connection. Its rhythm was calming. Its light offered hope. Hope that even in the most utter darkness, something beautiful and vital could exist. Once the first image was processed, scientists could estimate the source's approximate size and power. But these findings only deepened the mystery. The object was astonishingly compact. Its diameter was no more than 20 kilometers. Imagine a sphere the size of a large city, yet one that emits energy comparable to hundreds of stars like our Sun. The density of matter within it must have been unimaginable, exceeding even the density of an atomic nucleus. This pointed toward a neutron star, or perhaps an even more exotic object like a quark star. However, we remember that the emission spectrum was absolutely clean, entirely atypical for such stellar remnants. Furthermore, the main question remained unanswered. Where did it get its energy? Every radiating source must eventually cool down and fade. Stars draw power from thermonuclear reactions. Pulsars use the energy of their rotation. Accreting black holes utilize the gravitational energy of falling matter. Yet our object seemed to be losing no energy at all. Throughout the entire observation period, which now spanned several years, its pulsation never wavered by an iota. The period remained stable down to the millisecond. The brightness of its flares did not diminish. It was as if it were plugged into some kind of perpetual power source. This stability was both the object's most astonishing and most terrifying property. In the universe, everything changes. Stars are born and die, galaxies collide, the very fabric of space-time expands, entropy increases, order inexorably trends toward chaos. But this object was an island of unshakable order in an ocean of flux. It defied the second law of thermodynamics. What processes could possibly sustain such stability over millions, perhaps even billions of years? Physicists had no answer. The boldest and most fantastic theories began to surface. Perhaps this wasn't a natural phenomenon. Could we be observing an artifact of an extremely advanced civilization, a beacon built billions of years ago? Or was it a point of contact with another universe governed by different laws of physics, and we were seeing only the reflection of the processes happening there? These questions moved beyond the bounds of traditional science and strayed into the realm of philosophy. But gazing at that unblinking, pulsating light, it was impossible to shake the feeling that we were dealing with something fundamental, something at the very core of creation. And this thought, instead of causing alarm, brought a strange sense of peace. If the universe contained a source of such an eternal, unwavering rhythm, then there must be something reliable within it, something you could rely on. Listening to this cosmic metronome, you could feel your own internal chaos of thoughts and emotions gradually quiet down, syncing up with that profound stillness. Let's step away from astrophysics for just a moment and talk about the rhythm itself. 3.7 seconds. Why this specific period? Mathematically or physically, there's nothing inherently special about that number, but if we approach it from a different angle, from biology, we find something fascinating. This rhythm is remarkably close to the human breathing cycle during deep rest or meditation. It's also comparable to the heart rate of some large mammals while they hibernate. Is this merely a coincidence? Perhaps the universe is teeming with them. But it gives us pause. Rhythm is the fundamental structure of life. Our heartbeat, the cycle of day and night, the tides, the seasons, everything is governed by rhythm. Rhythm organizes chaos, it creates structure, it allows energy to flow harmoniously. When we are sick or stressed, our internal rhythms become disrupted. Conversely, when we are healthy and calm, all our bodily systems work together in smooth, rhythmic harmony. Perhaps this cosmic pulse is more than just a signal. Perhaps it is the tuning fork to which life itself is calibrated. Some scientists working at the intersection of physics and biology have proposed the hypothesis that life across the universe may not have originated randomly, but under the influence of fundamental cosmic rhythms. They suggest that complex organic molecules self-organized into living cells, obedient to this external ordering force. If so, this distant source might be one of those fundamental pace-setters. Its constant pulsation, spreading across the cosmos, could serve as an invisible framework upon which all complexity is built. This is admittedly a very bold and currently unprovable idea, yet it is beautiful in its essence. It tells us that we are not alone in the universe, not in the sense of other civilizations, but in a deeper, more fundamental way. We are part of a single, rhythmically breathing organism. Our hearts beat in unison with the heart of the cosmos. And when we sleep, when our breath slows and deepens, we involuntarily tune into this universal wave. We return to our source. Recognizing this truth can become a powerful tool for relaxation. Simply imagine that every single inhale and exhale is synchronized with this great cosmic breath. You breathe in, and the distant light brightens. You breathe out, and it gently fades. You and the universe are breathing together. And in that unity, all anxieties, all fears simply dissolve. What remains is only stillness, a deep, primordial peace. Let's turn our attention back to the light itself. We've established that the source is essentially invisible across most of the spectrum, with the exception of radio waves and a narrow, pulsating band in the optical range. This immediately suggested to researchers that the emission mechanism was utterly unlike anything we see in stars. Stars shine because they are hot. Their light is thermal radiation, a chaotic spray of photons across all energies. The light from our object was different. It was coherent. This means every photon in its beam shared the exact same wavelength, phase, and direction. They moved as one in perfect formation. Coherent light is extraordinarily rare in nature. Here on Earth, we've learned to create it artificially. It's a laser. A laser beam can transmit immense amounts of energy and information over vast distances with minimal loss. So, had we found a gigantic laser in space, either natural or artificial? The idea of a natural laser, or massa as it's known in astronomy, isn't new. We know of regions in space, for example, around young stars, where gas molecules can be pumped with energy and then emitted as coherent microwaves. But what we were observing here was orders of magnitude more powerful and stable than any known maser. Furthermore, masers emit at very specific, discrete frequencies corresponding to transitions between molecular energy levels. Yet the spectrum of our source, as we recall, was smooth and continuous. This led us back to a dead end. What kind of physics could possibly generate such a powerful, stable, and coherent signal? Some theorists suggested we might be dealing with an entirely new state of matter. Not protons and neutrons like in a neutron star, and not quarks like in a hypothetical quark star, but something far more fundamental. Perhaps a Bose-Einstein condensate, a state where a vast number of particles behave like a single, giant quantum wave. Such an object certainly could emit coherent light. However, for a condensate to exist, you need extremely low temperatures close to absolute zero. Yet judging by its enormous energy output, our source had to be searingly hot. This was the paradox, hot and cold simultaneously, compact yet supremely powerful, visible yet invisible. The more we learned about this object, the less we understood. It seemed woven entirely out of contradictions, and this forced us to contemplate the nature of reality itself. We are conditioned to think in binary categories, light and dark, hot and cold, order and chaos. But what if, at the most fundamental level, these opposites don't exist? What if they are simply two faces of the same coin? This pulsating light in the heart of darkness was the living embodiment of that idea. It was both light and dark simultaneously. It was the harmony of opposites. And contemplating this harmony, even mentally, can bring a profound sense of peace to our own conflicted, contradictory souls. As news of the discovery filtered out from closed scientific circles into the wider public, the object quickly acquired an unofficial moniker. They simply called it the heart. It was concise and perfect, partly because its slow, rhythmic pulsing truly resembled a cosmic heartbeat, partly because it resided deep within the great void, the very heart of the darkness. This name captured not so much the object's physical nature, but the powerful emotional impact it had on humanity. The story of this solitary pulsing light in the void quickly transcended the boundaries of science and became a cultural phenomenon. Artists painted canvases depicting that lonely beacon in the endless black. Musicians composed scores using its slow, hypnotic rhythm as the central theme. Poets dedicated verses to it. For countless people far removed from astronomy, the heart became a powerful symbol, a symbol of hope. A reminder that even in the deepest despair, in the most profound darkness, there remains a spark of light, a persistent rhythm of life. It became a metaphor for the inner strength residing within all of us, the intrinsic light that continues to burn when everything else seems to have collapsed. Psychologists and meditation specialists began to incorporate the image of the heart into their practices. They encouraged patients and students to visualize this distant, pulsing glow, synchronizing their breath and heartbeat with its rhythm. This proved effective in helping people manage anxiety, panic attacks, and insomnia. Visualizing this calm, steadfast beat, unaffected by any external chaos, provided an immediate sense of stability and security. It worked. People reported feeling calmer, more centered, and more connected to something greater than themselves after these meditations. The story of the heart demonstrated how a scientific discovery can transcend laboratories and formulas to have a profound impact on the human spirit. It reminded us that science is not just a method for understanding the world, but also a source of inspiration, beauty, and harmony, and that the most vital discoveries are those that don't just provide us with new knowledge, but make us a little kinder, a little wiser. And now, as you lie down, preparing for rest, try to imagine it. Picture that tiny, brilliant light beating synchronously with your own heart, somewhere out there in the unfathomable depths of the cosmos. Feel its warmth. Hear its silent music. Allow it to simply lull you to sleep. Let's delve into one of the most intriguing theories attempting to explain the nature of the heart. It revolves around the concept known as quantum foam. According to some models of quantum gravity, at the most microscopic scales, far smaller than an atom, space-time isn't smooth and continuous. Instead, it bubbles and boils like foam. Virtual particles constantly pop into and out of existence, spawning microscopic black holes and wormholes, tunnels into other regions of space-time or perhaps even other universes. Normally, this quantum foam is completely inaccessible to observation. Its effects manifest only on unimaginably tiny scales. But what if there were conditions under which one of these microscopic effects could be inflated to macroscopic dimensions? The theory proposes that the heart might be exactly such an object, a stable, long-lived wormhole, the throat of a tunnel connecting our universe to another. If this is true, the pulsing light we observe isn't radiation emitted by the object itself. It's light arriving from the other side, and the rhythmic pulsation could be caused by some periodic process in that other universe. For example, a star orbiting a black hole, whose motion periodically focuses the star's light into the wormhole's throat, acting like a cosmic lens. This theory sounds like pure science fiction, yet it elegantly explains many of the heart's oddities. It explains why the object is invisible across most wavelengths because it isn't made of ordinary matter, it is merely a distortion of space-time. It explains where the energy comes from, another universe. And it explains the purity of the spectrum. We are seeing light from a distant source, filtered through the wormhole's opening. If this theory holds true, we aren't just looking at an astronomical object. We are looking through a window into another world. A world that might be fundamentally different from ours, governed by different laws of physics, perhaps hosting other forms of matter, and potentially other forms of life. This idea is truly breathtaking. It stretches the boundaries of our imagination. We are accustomed to thinking of our universe as everything that exists, but what if it's just one page in the great boundless book of the multiverse? What if the heart is the keyhole through which we can glimpse what's written on the next page? We cannot pass through this window. We cannot receive any information beyond that simple, monotonous pulse. Yet even that is enough to feel part of something immeasurably larger. This thought doesn't diminish the significance of our own lives or our own world. On the contrary, it makes them even more precious. We are the witnesses to this marvel. We are the ones who get to look through this window. And that is a great privilege and a great responsibility. The responsibility to keep watching, to keep listening, and to keep dreaming. Beyond the idea of a wormhole, there is a different, equally fascinating hypothesis rooted in string theory. This theory posits that the fundamental building blocks of creation are not point-like particles, but rather microscopic, one-dimensional objects, strings. The various vibrational modes of these strings manifest as the different particles we observe, electrons, photons, and quarks. String theory also predicts the existence of extra spatial dimensions, in addition to the three we can see. These extra dimensions are often curled up or compactified, shrinking down to unimaginably small sizes, which is why we don't notice them in our everyday lives. Now imagine that the heart is a location where one of these extra dimensions, for some reason, has not been curled up. Instead, it remains macroscopic. This phenomenon could be a so-called brain, short for membrane, a multidimensional object upon which our entire universe rests, much like ink on a sheet of paper. And the heart is a defect, a fold in that brain, vibrating at a specific frequency. This vibration, according to the theory, generates the extraordinary radiation we are observing. In this model, the heart is not an object within our universe. It is an object that is part of the very fabric of space-time itself. Its pulsation is nothing less than the tremor of reality. This explains its incredible stability. It cannot lose energy and simply fade away because it is the energy of space-time. It cannot be destroyed because it represents a fundamental property of the cosmos at that specific location. This idea is even more abstract than the wormhole concept. It forces us to rethink the very definition of an object. We are accustomed to objects being made of matter and taking up space, but here the object is space itself. It is like a wave on the surface of the water. The wave isn't something separate from the water, it is the water that has been brought into motion. Similarly, the heart is space-time itself, brought into a state of rhythmic vibration. If this is true, then by listening to its pulse, we are listening to the music of existence. Not just the pulse of an object in the universe, but the pulse of the universe itself. It is the most fundamental melody there is. And when we tune into it, we are tuning into the very essence of reality. While this may sound complicated, the feeling this idea generates is simple and clear, a feeling of unity. Unity with everything that exists. There is no longer a separate me and the surrounding world. There is only one unified, vibrating, pulsing ocean of being. And we are but tiny ripples on its surface. This thought might seem daunting, but in truth, it is deeply liberating. It lifts the burden of the ego, the weight of separateness. It allows us to dissolve into something greater, to become part of the eternal dance of the cosmos. And that is the perfect state for falling asleep, a state of complete trust and acceptance. Let us now consider the boldest, the most provocative, and perhaps the most beautiful hypothesis regarding the nature of the heart. What if it is not merely a physical object, but something possessing the rudimentary beginnings of consciousness? Not in the biological sense, naturally. It has no brain, no nervous system. But what is consciousness at its most fundamental level? Philosophers and physicists like David Chalmers and Roger Penrose suggest that consciousness is not the sole product of complex information processing in the brain, but rather a fundamental property of the universe, just like mass or charge. This concept is called panpsychism. According to this view, every particle, every atom, holds a tiny spark of proto-consciousness. And when these particles organize into complex systems like the human brain, these sparks merge and give rise to what we define as our self. Now let's picture an object like the heart. Incredibly dense, composed of exotic matter, where quantum effects manifest on a macroscopic scale. Billions upon billions of its particles are in a state of quantum entanglement, behaving as a single, unified entity. Could such a system generate a singular, simple, yet giant consciousness? A mind the size of a city, unburdened by thoughts, emotions, or desires, a pure, rhythmic existence. What if the very pulsation we observe is the manifestation of this consciousness? Its breathing, its thought. Not thought in words or images, but thought as a pure rhythm. If this is true, the heart is the first non-biological intelligence we have ever discovered in the universe. An intelligence that doesn't build starships or send us coded messages. It simply is. It simply pulses. It contemplates eternity. This idea fundamentally overturns our anthropocentric view of intelligence. We are accustomed to seeing ourselves as the peak of evolution, the only thinking beings. But what if we are merely one of the countless forms in which universal consciousness can manifest? What if there are star minds, galaxy minds, nebula minds? We cannot communicate with them in our language, but we can sense their presence. We can tune into their rhythm, and that in itself is communication at the deepest, pre-verbal level. When you listen to the sound of the ocean or the rustle of leaves, you don't try to decipher words. You simply soak in their rhythm, their mood, and that calms you. We can listen to the pulse of the heart in the very same way. We can allow this ancient, wise, silent consciousness to lull us. We can trust it. We can feel protected by it, like a child falling asleep on its mother's chest, listening to the steady beat of her heart. This feeling of safety, this sense of unity with something vast and benevolent, is the best remedy for sleeplessness and anxiety. Allow yourself to feel it right now. Regardless of which theory proves true, be it an exotic star, a wormhole, or a cosmic intelligence, the mere existence of the heart forces us to confront a fundamental philosophical question. It is the question of the relationship between darkness and light, emptiness and fulfillment. In our culture, darkness and emptiness are almost universally associated with negativity. They evoke fear, death, non-existence and evil. Light, conversely, represents life, knowledge, and good. We strive toward the light and recoil from the dark. We feel compelled to fill every void in our time, our space, and within our very souls. But the discovery of the heart suggests this is a simplistic, dualistic view of the world. It shows us that darkness is not merely the absence of light. It is an independent, powerful entity. It is the very womb from which the most incredible wonders are born. It was in absolute darkness and emptiness that something as unique and beautiful as the heart was able to emerge. Perhaps it required this isolation, this profound silence, to truly form itself. Far from the chaos and noise of the galaxies, where stars constantly explode, collide, and consume one another, darkness became its cradle. And emptiness is revealed not as the absence of everything, but as the presence of pure potential, the potential for something utterly new to be born. This forces us to re-examine our own inner darkness, those moments in life when we feel lost, alone, and empty. We are conditioned to fear these states, trying to eliminate them as quickly as possible, filling them with external noise, work, entertainment, or socializing. But what if our greatest potential is hidden precisely within that inner void and silence? What if our own internal light can only truly ignite deep within the stillness of our soul? The discovery of the heart teaches us not to fear the darkness, but to respect it, to embrace it, to enter it, and listen to its silence, because it is in that silence that we can hear the most vital sound, the beating of our own heart and the beating of the heart of the universe. They beat in unison. This idea may seem abstract, but it has a very practical application, especially when it comes to sleep. Sleep is our daily plunge into darkness, and if we fear it, we cannot truly relax and surrender to the process. We fight it, clinging to the light of consciousness. But if we change our perspective, if we begin to see darkness as a friend, a healing, peaceful space, then falling asleep becomes easy and restorative. Imagine that you are not falling into a frightening unknown, but returning home, returning to the vast, calm, creative darkness from which everything once began. And waiting for you in the center of that darkness is a warm, pulsing light, your own heart. Building on our previous reflections, let's turn our attention to one crucial aspect: information. In physics, light isn't just illumination, it's primarily a carrier of data. Every photon that reaches us from a distant star carries an imprint of its history, its chemical composition, temperature, and velocity. By analyzing this light, we are essentially reading the autobiography of the universe. So what information does the light of the heart carry? At first glance, none at all. It's a monotonous, repeating signal. Tick-tock, tick-tock. There's no complexity here, no encrypted message like we see in contact movies about alien civilizations. It seems utterly primitive, but what if we're looking in the wrong place? What if the most crucial information lies not in the content of the signal, but in the mere fact of its existence and in its form? The very fact that it exists tells us our knowledge of the universe is incomplete. It confirms that there are objects and processes we haven't even begun to guess at. This is a message of profound humility, a reminder that we still have so much to learn. And the signal's form, its perfect, unwavering rhythm, carries a different kind of information. A message about order, about harmony. In a world that often seems increasingly chaotic and unpredictable, the heart reminds us that at the core of everything lies a fundamental, unshakable order. This isn't the kind of rigid structure we try to impose on the world using our laws and regulations. This is a deeper, more organic order, the order of a living system. It's like the difference between a melody strictly played by sheet music and the improvisation of a masterful musician. The first is a rigid structure, the second is a living flow, which nonetheless possesses inherent logic and harmony. The pulsation of the heart is just such a cosmic improvisation. It is simple, yet infinite depth is contained within that simplicity. Perhaps this is the most crucial message we could ever receive. Not blueprints for starships or formulas for eternal life, but a simple reassurance. Everything is fine. Everything is proceeding as it should. There is a rhythm to the universe. Trust it. This message speaks not to our logical mind, but to our subconscious, to our very heart, and it has the power to heal. When we are overwhelmed by anxiety, our minds frantically dart from the past to the future, generating thousands of terrifying scenarios. We lose connection with the present moment. We fall out of the flow. The signal of the heart brings us back to the here and now. Its monotonous rhythm acts as an anchor for our wandering consciousness. Listening to it, we can focus on nothing else. We simply listen. Tick-tock. And gradually, our thoughts quiet down. Our breathing steadies. Our body relaxes. We return to a state of harmony with ourselves and with the world. We have received the message, and we understood it without a single word. Let's try to imagine what it would be like to actually be there, right next to the heart. This is just a thought experiment, of course, but it will help us grasp the true nature of this phenomenon. So, our imaginary vessel drops out of hyperspace, right in the center of the great void. All around us is an absolute velvety blackness. There isn't a single star in the sky. The viewports are nothing but black squares. At first, it seems completely empty. But then, as our eyes adjust to the darkness, we begin to see it. Dead ahead, hanging several thousand kilometers away, is a small, perfectly spherical object. It doesn't glow constantly. It is utterly submerged in shadow. But then precisely 3.7 seconds pass, and its surface begins to ignite smoothly with a soft, milky white light. The light builds, reaching its maximum intensity, flooding our cockpit with an unearthly radiance, and then just as gently fades away, yielding once more to the darkness. And in that darkness we wait, in absolute silence. The wait is not tense, it's calm, meditative. We know it will flash again. And right on cue, a new wave of light erupts. This process is mesmerizing. It induces a trance-like state. It feels as if time has stopped, and there is only this eternal cycle of light and darkness. Our ship approaches closer. We see that the object's surface is perfectly smooth, like a highly polished sphere. It has no discernible features, no craters or mountains. It resembles a gigantic pearl. When it glows, the light doesn't emit from a single source, but radiates simultaneously from its entire surface. And this light doesn't burn. It doesn't even feel warm. It simply exists. We detect no gravity emanating from the object. Our instruments register no magnetic field, nor any dangerous radiation. It is completely inert. It simply hangs there in space, breathing light. Being near it, we are overcome by a sense of profound serenity. All the problems, all the worries we brought with us from Earth seem so small and insignificant now. Here, in the presence of this eternal, silent giant, everything finds its true proportion. we realize that our life is just a brief moment in eternity. Yet that moment is still a part of a great and beautiful whole, and we feel not fear before this endlessness, but gratitude. Gratitude for having been given the chance to witness it, for being able to participate in this cosmic dance. This feeling of peace and gratitude is the most powerful sedative. It washes away all anxieties. It relaxes every single cell in our body. We close our eyes, but the image of that pulsing light remains on the backs of our eyelids. And beneath its lulling, gentle glow, we sink into the deepest, most serene sleep imaginable. Stepping back from our imaginary cosmic journey, returning to Earth and our scientific laboratories, we encounter yet another enigma linked to the heart, its so-called fine structure. When astronomers began recording the signal at extremely high resolution, they noticed that no two pulsations were exactly the same. There are microscopic variations. The pulse doesn't just switch on and off, it possesses a complex internal form. If you visualize it as a graph, it's not a simple peak or hump, but a wave riddled with tiny notches and spikes. And here is the most astonishing part. This complex pattern, this micro-melody, doesn't repeat chaotically. It evolves. It changes slowly, very slowly over time, progressing through long, drawn-out cycles. It's akin to a musical composition. There is the main rhythm set by the pulsation itself, upon which is layered a complex, ever-shifting melody played out by these micro-variations. Preliminary estimates suggest the full duration of one such melodic cycle lasts roughly 82 years. This discovery sparked a new wave of discussion. If the heart is simply a natural, inanimate object, what physical process could possibly generate such a complex yet orderly signal structure? It doesn't resemble the turbulence of an accretion disk nor the standard vibrations of a neutron star. It looks more like a fractal structure, where the small patterns echo the large ones, or the workings of an intricate machine, or perhaps a language, not a human language composed of words, but a mathematical, musical form of communication. Could the heart actually be trying to tell us something? Might this fine signal structure encrypt the very information we've been seeking? Deciphering such a language without a key is virtually impossible. We can only acknowledge its complexity and harmonic nature. But the mere thought that we are listening not to random noise but to a meaningful symphony changes everything. It suggests that the universe doesn't merely exist, it creates. It forges beauty and complexity even in the most unexpected places, and we, with our radio telescopes, are its very first audience. This notion might sound overly fantastical, yet it resonates deep within the human spirit. We ourselves are creatures driven by creation, driven to make order out of chaos. We write music, paint pictures, and build cities. This is a fundamental need, and finding the same creative impulse echoed in the universe makes us kindred spirits. We are not strangers in this world. We are its offspring, having inherited its innate drive to create. And when we finally go to sleep, we too become creators. We forge worlds of dreams, complex, unpredictable, yet possessing their own internal logic and profound beauty. Perhaps in that moment we are most like the heart. We too become sources of pulsating creative light in the silence and darkness of the night. The complex structure of this signal naturally led to another field of inquiry, the search for correlations. Researchers began comparing the melody of the heart with other known cyclical processes, both across the cosmos and right here on Earth. They searched for links between its subtle micro-variations and, for example, the activity of our Sun, the movement of planets, or even global climate cycles here on Earth. Most of these searches came up empty. The heart appeared entirely independent of its environment. It seemed to be following its own distinct path, governed solely by its own laws. However, one correlation was eventually found, and it was so utterly strange and unexpected that many scientists still refuse to acknowledge it, often dismissing it as nothing more than a statistical fluke. It turned out that the long-term changes in the subtle structure of the heart signal correlated with certain indicators of collective human consciousness. The researchers utilized data from the Global Consciousness Project, an initiative that has spent decades monitoring random number generators, RNGs, placed worldwide. The project's core theory is that during major events that provoke a strong emotional response in millions of people, such as terrorist attacks, natural disasters, or major global celebrations, the RNG readings cease to be truly random, instead showing small but statistically significant deviations. When this data was cross-referenced with the heart's melody, a weak yet persistent link emerged. It's as if this distant object somehow reacts to our collective emotions, or even more mind-bogglingly, perhaps it influences them. This connection sounds like pure mysticism, and the scientific community views the finding with deep skepticism. The underlying mechanism for such a link remains totally elusive. How can an object millions of light-years away be fundamentally linked to the processes in our heads and hearts? This takes us into the realm of the boldest hypotheses regarding the nature of consciousness and reality, such as macro-level quantum entanglement or the concept of a unified informational field permeating the universe. According to these ideas, everything in the cosmos is interconnected at the most fundamental level. Our consciousness, therefore, isn't an isolated phenomenon locked within our skull, but rather an intrinsic part of this global network. If this is true, the heart could function as a node, a massive hub in this network, a powerful resonator that captures and perhaps amplifies the global fluctuations of this consciousness field. Of course, these remain purely speculative ideas, but they force us to ask the big questions. What if our thoughts and emotions aren't merely localized biochemical processes in the brain? What if they are a genuine force, capable of exerting influence upon the wider universe? What if our collective state, be it fear, anger, or, conversely, love and compassion, generates actual waves that ripple throughout the cosmos? This realization is simultaneously terrifying and deeply inspiring. It places an immense responsibility upon each of us, responsibility for our thoughts and for our innermost state of being, because that state is not merely our own private affair. It is our active contribution to the universe's overall symphony. And when we finally settle down for sleep, releasing the day's worries and centering ourselves in peace and stillness, we are doing more than just resting. We are sending a signal of harmony out into the cosmos. And perhaps, somewhere in the unimaginable distance, the heart hears us and answers with its own calm, measured rhythm. Let's return to the scene of the discovery, the Great Void. What exactly is the void? Voids, or cosmic voids, are the largest and most desolate structures in the universe. They are vast, almost spherical regions, virtually devoid of galaxies. On the largest scales, our universe resembles a massive sponge or a net. Bright filaments and walls composed of galaxy clusters intertwine to form what we call the cosmic web, and between these threads lie the dark, empty bubbles, the voids. The scale of these bubbles is staggering. The Great Void, which contains the heart, spans roughly 330 million light-years in diameter. If our own Milky Way galaxy were placed at its center, we wouldn't see a single other galaxy with the naked eye. For a long time, voids were thought to be completely empty. But recent research shows this isn't entirely true. They contain extremely rarefied gas, particles of dark matter, and even a small number of dim, dwarf galaxies. Yet overall, the density of matter inside them is tens of times lower than the cosmic average. Voids are the coldest and darkest regions of space. They are a realm of silence and isolation. And it is this extreme environment that might hold the key to the formation of a unique object like the heart. In dense galaxy clusters, violent processes are constantly underway. Gravitational interactions, collisions, supernova explosions, quasar radiation, all of this creates a chaotic and noisy environment. Any fragile, exotic object that did form there would quickly be torn apart. But the void offers ideal conditions for preserving something ancient and stable. It's like a cosmic nature reserve, a place where time flows differently, where nothing interferes with subtle, fundamental processes. Perhaps objects like the heart only form within the voids, and perhaps there are many more of them. We've just found the closest and brightest ones so far. Could every cosmic void possess its own heart? Could the entire universe be a network of interconnected pulsating centers? This shifts our understanding of the cosmos drastically. We are used to focusing on bright objects, stars and galaxies. We considered them the main content of the universe, and the voids merely the backdrop. But what if it's the other way around? What if the main action is actually happening in the silence and darkness of the voids, and the galaxies are just the noisy, bustling foam upon the surface of a deep, calm ocean? This thought fundamentally changes our perspective. It teaches us to value silence, to value solitude, to value those moments when we can be alone with ourselves, far from the external noise. Because it is in those moments that we can hear our own inner voice, our own rhythm, and realize that we are not just a grain of sand in a chaotic vortex. We too are the center of our own small universe. And within us, we also possess our own pulsating heart. When discussing the nature of the heart, we inevitably have to address the question of its age. How old is it? The answer could unlock the secret of its origin, but determining the age of a solitary, isolated object, one that is unlike anything else we've ever encountered, is a nearly impossible task. We have no frame of reference. We can't use standard methods like analyzing the stellar population around it, because there is none, or measuring its cooling rate, because it isn't cooling. We can, however, make some informed assumptions. If the heart is the remnant of some ancient massive star, then it must be incredibly old. Stars massive enough to produce a neutron star or a black hole lived very short lives, just a few million years. This means the compact object itself could have formed in the earliest days of the universe, when the cosmos was still very young. If it was born from a supernova explosion, then over the intervening billions of years, it would have drifted far from its birthplace. The fact that we find it in the center of a cosmic void might just be a cosmic coincidence. It could have been born in one of the filaments of the cosmic web and simply wandered into this empty region during its long journey. But there is a far more intriguing possibility. What if the heart is much older? What if it predates even galaxies and stars? Some cosmological models hypothesize the existence of what are called primordial black holes. These are hypothetical black holes that didn't form from stellar collapse, but rather from density fluctuations in the very early universe, in the first fractions of a second after the Big Bang. If the heart is such a relic object, it could be nearly the same age as the universe itself, about 13.8 billion years old. It would be a true witness to creation. It saw the first particles born from the primordial fireball, the formation of the first atoms, and the ignition of the first stars. It has maintained its unwavering rhythm throughout the entire history of the cosmos. This thought fills us with sheer awe. We are looking at a living fossil, a message from times we can only describe using mathematical formulas. And this message speaks to incredible resilience and constancy. In a universe where everything flows and changes, here is something that remains fixed, something eternal. This object was here before us, and it will be here long after our civilization vanishes. It pulsed in silence for billions of years before life even began on Earth, and it will continue its silent beat long after our own sun burns out. Realizing this helps us put our priorities in perspective, our daily problems, our fears, and our hopes. All of it is so fleeting. What matters is what we do in this brief moment granted to us. How do we live it? In anxiety and rushing, or in harmony with the eternal rhythm of existence? The heart doesn't give us answers, but it asks the right questions. And by listening to it, we might find our own answers in the silence, deep within our souls. There is another aspect of the heart we haven't touched upon yet. its polarization. Light is an electromagnetic wave, and that wave has an electric field that oscillates. The direction of those oscillations is what we call polarization. Generally, light from normal stars is unpolarized. This is because it's emitted by countless independent atoms whose oscillations are randomly scattered in all directions. But the light emanating from the heart turned out to be intensely polarized. What's more, the polarization wasn't simple, linear polarization, where the field oscillates along a single plane, nor was it circular, where the field vector rotates steadily. It was incredibly complex and dynamic, changing over time. With every pulse, the polarization vector smoothly twisted and turned, tracing an intricate figure. While this figure varied from pulse to pulse, it adhered to a specific long-term pattern. This discovery added another layer of complexity, another major headache for physicists. What mechanism could possibly generate such a complex, time-varying polarization? The only known way to produce anything close to this signature is for the light to pass through an extremely strong, highly structured magnetic field. But, as we recall, our instruments registered no magnetic field around the object. This implies the field must be concentrated deep inside the object or right at its surface. Furthermore, this field couldn't just be strong, it needed an incredibly complex dynamic structure, not a simple north and south pole like a bar magnet, but thousands or millions of small, constantly shifting magnetic domains. This observation gave rise to the so-called magnetar hypothesis. Magnetars are a type of neutron star famous for possessing extreme magnetic fields, trillions of times more powerful than Earth's. These fields are so intense they can literally distort the star's shape. Magnetars are known for their explosive flares and instability. Yet the heart was perfectly stable. This led to a modified version. What if the object was an old, cold magnetar? An object that had shed most of its rotational energy and cooled down, but retained its unbelievably complex internal magnetic field. This field, slowly rearranging and vibrating, would then generate the precise stellar pulsation we observe. This model successfully accounts for many of the heart's features, its compactness, power, coherence, and polarization. However, it fails to explain the key puzzle, the purity of its spectrum, and the total lack of thermal radiation. Even an old magnetar should still be glowing brightly in the X-ray range. So, this hypothesis remains incomplete. But it did give us one more beautiful image. The image of an object whose inner life is a silent, complex ballet, a dance of magnetic fields which we can only perceive through its external manifestation, the rhythmic pulse of polarized light. This reminds us that everything in the universe, even the seemingly simplest objects, possesses a rich and intricate internal existence, a rock, a tree, a drop of water, and ourselves. We only see a person's outer shell, yet inside lies an entire cosmos of thoughts, feelings, and memories. This inner world is just as complex and beautiful as the magnetic dance at the core of a distant star. And when we learn to recognize this inner beauty in ourselves and in others, the world suddenly becomes much richer and more fascinating. Let's step away from physics for a moment and focus on the psychology of perception. Why does the story of the heart affect us so profoundly? Why is it so calming, so soothing? It's more than just the slow rhythms syncing up with our breathing. There are much deeper reasons at play. The first is the concept of the archetype. In Jungian psychology, archetypes are those universal, innate images and symbols that reside within humanity's collective unconscious. These include figures like the wise old man, the great mother, and the hero, but one of the most potent is the center, the world center, the axis mundi, the tree of life. Across countless mythologies and religions, we find the image of a sacred center, a fixed point around which the entire world revolves. It represents stability, order, and the essential source of life and meaning. The journey toward this center is a metaphor for the spiritual path, the quest back to our true self, our core essence. And the heart fits this archetype perfectly. It sits at the very center of the great void. It is the origin of a stable, ordering rhythm. It pulses like the spring of all life. When we listen to its story, we subconsciously undertake that symbolic pilgrimage to the center. This, in turn, grants us a feeling of wholeness, harmony, and the comfort of returning home. We realize that the world isn't chaotic or meaningless. It has a core, a central heart, and that realization provides us with a profound sense of security. The second reason is what we can call the cosmic perspective. When we truly absorb the scale of the universe, the billions of years of its history, the incomprehensible distances, our own immediate problems begin to look incredibly small. That work conflict, those financial difficulties, that lingering resentment toward a loved one, all of it loses its sharp edge when set against the eternal, silent dance of the galaxies. This is not to say that our problems are unimportant, but the cosmic perspective helps us view them from a detached vantage point. We stop seeing them as universal tragedies and start seeing them as temporary, manageable difficulties. This therapeutic ego reduction effect frees us from the heavy burden of self-importance. It allows us to finally relax and accept life exactly as it is. The story of the heart is a powerful delivery system for reaching this cosmic perspective. It carries us far, far away from our daily concerns. It presents us with something so vast and mysterious that everything else simply fades into insignificance. And in this act of self-forgetting, we find deep peace. We dissolve into the universe. This is the optimal state for falling asleep. A state where the concept of self dissolves, and all that remains is pure, tranquil existence, moving in perfect unison with the beat of the heart. So, we've explored countless hypotheses about the nature of the heart, ranging from an exotic neutron star to a window into another universe. But what if the answer is both far simpler and far more profound? What if the heart isn't an object, but a process? What if it's not about what it is, but how it is? Let me elaborate on that idea. Over the past few decades, a concept known as process philosophy has gained significant traction in the scientific community. It posits that fundamental reality isn't composed of static objects, but of dynamic processes. The world consists not of things, but of events. A stone isn't a thing. It's an incredibly slow process, a highly deliberate dance of atoms. You and I, we aren't things either. We are complex, self-organizing processes of exchanging matter and energy with our environment. Within this framework, the question, what is the heart, might be ill-posed. The correct question is, what process are we observing and labeling as the heart? And the answer might be this: we are witnessing the process of vacuum self-organization. We usually think of a vacuum as nothingness, but in quantum physics the vacuum is far from empty. It's a boiling cauldron of virtual particles brimming with tremendous energy. Typically, this energy remains latent, it's hidden. But what if, under very specific conditions, say, in the extreme isolation and profound silence of the cosmic void, this vacuum energy manages to self-organize, to create a stable, coherent, pulsing structure? In that scenario, the heart wouldn't be composed of any matter at all. It would be woven from space-time itself, from the energy of the vacuum. It is a wave in the quantum field. This explains why it is invisible across most spectrums and emits no thermal radiation. It simply has nothing to emit. It is neither hot nor cold. Those concepts are fundamentally inapplicable to it. It is pure structure, pure information, manifested as a vibration of existence itself. This idea might seem the most abstract of all our hypotheses, yet it may be the closest one to the truth. It suggests that the universe possesses an innate capacity for creation, for self-organization. It can generate complexity and order out of nothing, utilizing the sheer potentiality of the vacuum. And the heart is the most brilliant and simplest demonstration of this creative impulse. It is like the first brushstroke on the canvas, the first sound in the silence, the first thought in the void. Contemplating this primal act of creation holds incredible power. It brings us back to the source, back to the moment before anything was. And in this primordial emptiness, we feel not fear, but boundless potential, the potential that everything can be created anew, that every new day, every single breath is a fresh start. And with that thought, it becomes incredibly easy and peaceful to drift off to sleep. Anticipating the new morning. The next act of creation. The heart's discovery didn't just impact science and culture, its influence extended into far more subtle realms, especially technology. Inspired by this phenomenon, scientists and engineers began asking a crucial question. Can we replicate something similar here on Earth? Could we create an artificial energy source based on the same fundamental principles? If the heart truly draws its energy from the vacuum of space, it unlocks the potential for a virtually inexhaustible and totally clean power source. This single achievement could solve all of humanity's energy crises. This spurred the beginning of research into what we now call vacuum engineering. It's a speculative and incredibly young field, but it's already drawing in the best minds in the world. Researchers are trying to establish laboratory conditions that might provoke the localized self-organization of the vacuum itself. This is an extraordinarily complex task. They need to create a region of space with extremely low levels of matter and external fields, a sort of mini-void, and then somehow nudge the vacuum into a coherent, pulsating state. So far, success remains elusive. But the very fact that this research is underway speaks volumes. It proves that we aren't just passive observers of the universe's wonders. We are active students. We seek to understand its laws not merely out of curiosity, but so that we might apply them for the common good. Another technological frontier inspired by the heart involves the development of entirely new communication systems. The heart's coherent, monochromatic signal is the perfect information carrier. It can travel billions of light years with virtually no distortion. Learning to generate and modulate similar signals could revolutionize interstellar communication. We could send messages to distant stars that would be easily distinguishable from natural cosmic background noise. Perhaps the heart isn't merely a natural phenomenon, but precisely such a beacon, built not for us, but for someone else entirely, and we just happen to eavesdrop on the transmission. This idea is profoundly stimulating. It imbues the night sky with new meaning. It's no longer just a cold, indifferent void. It's a space filled with potential signals, conversations, and songs, and we, armed with our telescopes, sit on the shore of this cosmic ocean trying to catch its whispered secrets. Strangely, this thought also helps one sleep. It provides a profound sense of connection to something vast and mysterious, the feeling that we are not alone, that countless discoveries and wonders await us in the future. And to be ready for them, we need to rest well, to recharge our energy, and perhaps dream of new, as yet undiscovered worlds. Inevitably, the question will arise for humankind, shouldn't we launch an exploratory mission to the heart? Currently, of course, this is impossible. The distance is measured in hundreds of millions of light years. Even traveling at the speed of light, the journey would take an eternity. But technology is never static. Perhaps in 100, 1,000, or 10,000 years, we will develop ways to traverse space far faster, perhaps utilizing wormholes or sophisticated warp drives. If that happens, the heart will become one of the prime candidates for such an expedition. Let's visualize that flight, a generation ship or an automated probe launched on the longest journey in human history. What could it possibly find there? What will we actually see when we approach the heart up close? If the old magnetar hypothesis is correct, we will witness an incredibly dense sphere of neutron matter surrounded by an intricate, chaotic dance of magnetic fields. We could study this exotic matter, testing our theories of quantum chromodynamics. If the wormhole hypothesis proves true, then we won't see an object but a distortion of space itself. The stars behind it would appear strange, their light bent and twisted as though viewed through a funhouse mirror. Perhaps we could even peer inside and catch glimpses of another universe. That would surely be the greatest discovery in all of history. But what if the hypothesis of a cosmic intelligence is correct? What happens then? Will it reach out to us? Or will it merely continue its silent pulsation, paying us no mind at all? Perhaps we are nothing more than ants to this entity. It knows of our existence, yet remains indifferent. Or, conversely, it may have been waiting for our arrival for billions of years, and when we get close, its signal will shift. It will begin transmitting knowledge accumulated over the entire history of the cosmos. This is the most exciting and simultaneously the most terrifying scenario. Are we ready for that contact? Is our collective consciousness prepared to absorb wisdom that predates our planet? We don't have the answers to these questions, and perhaps we never will. This expedition belongs to the distant future, but the very dream of it, the mere possibility of such a journey, is already changing us today. It gives us a purpose, a great shared goal that can unite all of humanity, to know the universe, not to conquer it or exploit it, but simply to understand our place within it. And this dream is a beautiful lullaby, a dream of stars, of distant worlds, of encounters with the unknown. Allow this dream to carry you away into the realm of sleep, to a place where any journey is possible, and where you are the captain of your own starship. Let's go back to the very beginning, the moment of discovery. That first faint signal that finally pierced through the background static of the cosmos. Behind this breakthrough were specific people, astronomers, engineers, programmers, individuals who have dedicated their lives to listening to the silence of space. Picture a night shift at the observatory, a massive room filled with flickering monitors, silence broken only by the low hum of cooling computers. Then a young graduate student or a grey-haired professor stares at a readout and suddenly spots a strange, repetitive anomaly. At first, they don't trust their eyes, they assume it's an error. They restart the system, check the calibration, but the anomaly remains, it's still there, it's real. And in that instant they feel that singular emotion known to every scientist, every pioneer, a mixture of euphoria, confusion, and utter sacred awe. They have touched a secret. They have seen something no one before them has ever witnessed. This is the moment they lived for. Yet that moment of sheer euphoria is followed by long months and years of painstaking, routine work, cross-checking the data, writing analysis programs, sleepless nights spent glued to the telescope, arguments with colleagues who try to disprove your finding, defending your hypothesis at endless conferences. It is grueling, exhausting labor. Most scientific discoveries never become a sensation. They simply add a small brick to the vast edifice of human knowledge. But the story of the heart was different. With this project, every new step, every new bit of data, only deepened the mystery instead of solving it. It was simultaneously agonizing and magnificent. The scientists involved felt like detectives investigating the most baffling case in history. Except there was no crime. There was a marvel, and they were its first witnesses. This human element of science is crucial. We often imagine scientists as dispassionate automatons operating only on formulas. But that isn't true. They are living, breathing people, driven by their own passions, doubts, and hopes. They are driven not just by logic, but by intuition and a sense of beauty. They seek not only truth in the workings of the universe, but also harmony. The discovery of the heart was their ultimate reward. It revealed that the universe is not only logical, it is poetic, not just complex, it is breathtakingly beautiful. And that beauty is accessible to anyone willing to look and listen. And now, as you listen to this story, you are also becoming part of this discovery. You too are touching this mystery. And perhaps you feel that same sense of awe that the astronomer felt on that distant night. Allow that feeling to fill you and let it carry you away into a world where science and poetry become one. The discovery of the heart yielded many unexpected results, but one of the most fascinating emerged in the field of artificial intelligence. The sheer volume of signal data quickly overwhelmed human researchers, so the scientists developed a specialized neural network to analyze its fine structure. They fed it all available recordings and tasked it with finding hidden patterns and rules. The network worked for several months, and the results were astonishing. It didn't just confirm the long-term cycles that humans had already spotted, it found far more complex nested structures. The network revealed that the signal's melody possessed properties strikingly similar to human language or music. It contained the sonic equivalent of phrases, sentences, verses, and choruses. There were repeating motifs that evolved and transformed. There was even something resembling grammar and syntax. It was like feeding a computer the sound of a roaring waterfall, only for it to discover Shakespearean sonnets embedded within the noise. But the strangest part came next. Scientists decided to take the experiment further. They taught the neural network not just to analyze the signals, but to generate new ones in the style of the heart. Their goal was to see if the AI could truly understand the underlying logic and create original content in the same vein. And it succeeded. The network began generating its own cosmic compositions. These weren't exact duplicates of the original signal, but they shared the same complexity and style. They were harmonious and beautiful. This is where the truly unpredictable discovery occurred. People who listened to these generated signals reported the exact same calming, soothing effect as the original heart signal. Some listeners even claimed the effect was stronger. It was as if the artificial intelligence, devoid of ego and emotion, had managed to distill the very essence, the pure quintessence of that cosmic harmony, and present it in a clean, purified form. This breakthrough led to the creation of a new field in audio technology, the neuro-lullaby. These are programs and applications that generate personalized sonic landscapes for sleep based on the principles derived from the heart signal, and they proved incredibly effective. It's a stunning example of how the most distant, abstract discovery in astrophysics can find direct, practical application in our daily lives, how a cosmic mystery helps us solve a deeply human problem like insomnia. It truly illustrates the interconnectedness of everything. The path to inner harmony, it seems, sometimes lies through understanding the harmony of the universe itself. And perhaps the very sound you hear now beneath my voice is one of those neuro-lullabies created by an artificial intelligence that learned to speak the language of the stars. Allow that language to permeate your subconscious mind and let it tell you a story of eternity. Good night. Not everyone greeted the discovery of the heart with wonder and reverence. Like any epoch-defining event, it immediately cast its own long shadow, a host of pervasive conspiracy theories. Some claimed that the heart didn't exist at all, that it was a massive global hoax engineered by governments to distract the populace from genuine issues. They insisted the data was fabricated and all the images were computer-generated simulations. Others, conversely, believed the object was real but were certain that the authorities were concealing its true nature. They argued it wasn't just a natural phenomenon, but something far more significant, perhaps even dangerous. For instance, they posited it was an alien superweapon that could be activated at any moment, or perhaps a hidden portal allowing hostile entities to slip into our world. A third group went further still, declaring that the heart was nothing less than a prison. They theorized that an ancient, powerful, and malevolent entity was sealed within this super-dense sphere, and that its pulsing was merely its desperate attempt to break free. They warned that by listening to its signal, we weren't finding calm, but rather succumbing to its corrupting influence, becoming its unwitting slaves. However absurd these theories appeared, they quickly found a dedicated following. They spread rapidly online, gaining traction with layers of new, manufactured evidence. They expertly played on humanity's deepest fears, the fear of the unknown, mistrust of authority, and the belief in hidden forces governing the world. This phenomenon is incredibly telling. It perfectly demonstrates how the human mind can interpret the same event in wildly different ways. For some, the heart is a symbol of hope, harmony, and unity. For others, it's a source of threat, deception, and pure malice. The chosen interpretation, however, depends not on the object itself but on the individual's internal state. It hinges on what dominates their soul: trust or fear, openness or suspicion. The heart has become a sort of mirror, reflecting humanity's own image back at us, all of its light and its darkness, all of its wisdom and all of its folly, and this is perhaps one of the most vital lessons it has taught us. The lesson that the reality we perceive is not an objective given, it is a product of our own consciousness. We ourselves color the world. If we wish to live in a reality filled with harmony and wonder, we must first find that harmony within. We must shed our fears, open our hearts, and learn in trust. Trust ourselves, trust others, and trust the universe, which perhaps is not as terrible or hostile as we sometimes imagine, but rather full of beauty and care, and its heart beats in perfect rhythm with our own. Another fascinating line of thought emerging from the discovery of the heart lies in the realm of theology and the philosophy of religion. For many devout individuals, this phenomenon became a kind of scientific validation of God's existence. They perceived in it an undeniable manifestation of divine order and cosmic harmony. The pulsating light at the center of the darkness became a powerful metaphor for the divine presence in the world, that light which, according to many teachings, shines even in the deepest shadows and is never extinguished. Priests, imams, and rabbis began utilizing the image of the heart in their sermons. They argued that science, unintentionally, had provided confirmation of ancient truths laid out in sacred texts. They suggested that astronomers, pointing their telescopes skyward, had observed not cold, dead matter, but a living, breathing creation. This, they claimed, formed a bridge between science and religion, two domains that had been in conflict for centuries. The discovery of the heart suggested that they might share common ground, a mutual sense of awe before the mystery of existence, and a shared pursuit of truth, albeit through different methodologies. Naturally, not everyone agreed. Atheistic scientists and philosophers countered that assigning a divine nature to the heart was a lapse into anthropomorphism, substituting scientific explanation with mythology. They insisted that this was simply a natural object, currently unexplained, and that sooner or later a rigorous physical model would be found, one that required no appeal to supernatural entities. This debate continues to this day, and truly, in this argument, there is no right or wrong side because both groups are addressing different levels of reality. Science describes how the world works. Religion attempts to answer why it works. Science seeks laws, religion seeks meaning. The heart became the focal point where these two quests converged. It is an object that can be studied using formulas and instruments, yet simultaneously it is a powerful symbol that can be infused with the deepest spiritual significance. And one perspective does not contradict the other. We can admire the mathematical elegance of the theory describing the pulsation of the heart, and at the same time feel the very breath of God within that rhythm. They are two distinct languages describing the same impenetrable reality. When we learn to comprehend both of them, our world becomes more expansive, deeper, and infinitely richer. And perhaps our sleep becomes sounder too, because we fall asleep with the profound sense that the world has meaning, that we are not simply adrift in a cold, indifferent cosmos, that behind it all lies some great design, and we are an essential part of it. Let's return to the topic of sound, more specifically how we perceive it. The signal from the heart reaches us in the form of radio waves. These aren't sound waves traveling through the air. Radio waves are electromagnetic radiation, which our human hearing cannot detect. To allow us to hear it, scientists transform this signal. They take a recording of the radio transmission and simply play it back through a speaker. This results in that deep, muffled thump. But this is just one interpretation. We could process the signal differently. For instance, we could map the radio wave's frequency to sound pitch and its intensity to volume. Instead of a simple thump, we would then hear a complex, shimmering melody. What if we went even further and mapped different parameters of the signal, say its polarization, to different musical instruments? We would then unlock an entire symphony. A cosmic symphony composed not by a human, but by the universe itself. This is exactly what several enthusiastic musicians and composers have done. They took the raw data from the heart signal and created musical pieces based on it. This process is called sonification, and the results were astonishing. The resulting music was not a chaotic jumble of sounds. It was incredibly harmonious, meditative, and beautiful. It contained tranquil, soothing passages, moments of dramatic crescendo, and complex polyphonic structures. It felt alive. The music had a profound emotional impact on listeners. Many reported feeling as if this music spoke to them on a deep, pre-verbal level, that it awakened ancient archetypal memories within them, memories of something they always knew but had somehow forgotten. The phenomenon of sonification shows us that the information contained within the heart signal is far richer than it appears at first glance, and that our default method of perceiving it is only one among many possibilities. The universe speaks to us in the language of mathematics, the language of light, and the language of music. To truly understand it, we must become polyglots. We must develop not just our logical minds, but also our intuition and our emotional and aesthetic perception. And music is one of the best ways to achieve this. It speaks directly to our subconscious, bypassing the filters of critical thought. It allows us to feel the truth, not just understand it. So now, as you prepare for sleep, perhaps you shouldn't just think about the heart. Try to hear it instead, not with your ears, but with your heart. Try to imagine the music it is playing. What melody is born from its slow, majestic breath? And allow that music to fill you. Let it become the soundtrack to your dreams. Let us turn our attention to another fascinating aspect: symmetry. In physics, symmetry plays a foundational role. Many of the universe's fundamental laws are direct consequences of the symmetries governing space-time. The heart itself exhibits astonishing symmetry. Firstly, its form. As far as observation allows, it is a perfect sphere, the most symmetric three-dimensional figure possible. Secondly, its rhythm. Its pulsation is perfectly periodic in time, a classic example of temporal symmetry. But the most remarkable point is its location. It rests almost precisely at the geometric center of a gigantic, spherical emptiness, a cosmic void. This is spatial symmetry of the highest order. This triple coincidence, perfect sphere, perfect periodicity, perfect centering, is statistically improbable to the extreme. If the heart were merely a random object that drifted into the void, it certainly wouldn't settle exactly at the center. If it were just a collapsed star, rotation and magnetic fields would have distorted its shape. It wouldn't be a perfect sphere. This level of excessive symmetry suggests that the heart is no accident. It appears to be a fundamental solution to the equations that govern our universe, much like a perfect circle is the simple solution to a basic geometric problem. In both mathematics and physics, the most beautiful and fundamental solutions are almost always the most symmetric ones. The heart seems to embody this principle perfectly. We might view it as an attractor, a highly stable state toward which any system naturally tends under these specific conditions. Perhaps within the extreme emptiness and isolation of the void, all matter or energy eventually and inevitably collapses into this perfectly symmetrical, pulsating structure. The heart represents the ultimate, most stable form of being in the darkness. This is a profound and beautiful concept. It suggests that the underlying nature of the universe is not chaos, but a fundamental drive toward harmony and symmetry. Order emerges from chaos not by chance, but by natural law. And this realization can be deeply therapeutic. When our own lives feel chaotic, tangled, and utterly asymmetrical, we can recall the nature of the heart. We can trust that we, too, possess this internal attractor, this center of perfect symmetry and harmony to which we can always return. Practices like meditation, prayer, connecting with nature, or deep, restorative sleep, these are all pathways back to that internal center, to that sacred space within our spirit where silence, peace, and ideal order prevail. where we cease to be a collection of random thoughts and emotions and realize we are an ideally symmetric, radiant sphere. Let us attempt to locate this inner space right now. Close your eyes and visualize a small, warm, pulsating point of light centered within your chest. This is your own internal heart. Feel its steady rhythm. Sense its inherent symmetry. Now allow it to expand, growing until it fills your entire body, and your room, and your entire world. You are the center. You are the harmony. Let's ask a question that might sound strange. Could the heart actually be dangerous? Until now, we've only discussed it in positive terms, as a source of harmony, hope, and peace. But could this phenomenon have a darker side? Some scientists have voiced these concerns, primarily related to the object's incredible power. We mentioned it emits energy comparable to hundreds of suns, and all of that energy is concentrated in a narrow, coherent beam. What if that beam were accidentally aimed at Earth? Of course, the heart is immensely distant, and its expanding beam loses most of its intensity. Yet even the residual energy might be enough to cause serious problems, disrupting our satellites, collapsing power grids, or even affecting the climate. This is the scenario of a so-called cosmic strike. We are used to fearing asteroids, but perhaps there are more exotic threats emanating from the depths of space. Another concern relates to the nature of the signal itself. Its rhythm, as we discussed, might enter into resonance with our own biological rhythms. While small doses have a calming effect, what would happen with prolonged or more powerful exposure? Could it, conversely, disrupt our brain function and nervous system? Could it trigger mass psychoses or changes in consciousness? This sounds more like the plot of a science fiction thriller, but science must consider all scenarios, even the most improbable ones. Currently, there is no data confirming these fears. The heart has been pulsing for billions of years, and during that time, its beam has likely swept across the area where our solar system now resides many times, and yet there have been no catastrophic consequences. On the contrary, some even suggest that these very irradiations might have acted as a catalyst for the evolution of life on Earth, triggering rapid, unpredictable mutations. But the very notion of potential danger forces us to contemplate our fragility, how vulnerable we are to the forces of the cosmos. We built a civilization, we consider ourselves masters of the planet, but one single pulse from the depths of the universe could destroy it all overnight. This is a sobering thought, but it shouldn't lead to fear or paranoia. It should lead to humility, to the realization that we are only a small part of a vast, powerful, and not always predictable world, and that humility is also a path to peace. When we stop struggling against the world, when we stop trying to control everything, we achieve freedom. The freedom simply to be, to accept everything that happens, the good and the bad, as part of the great cosmic game. And this acceptance is the key to deep, serene sleep. Sleep without fear or anxiety. Sleep sheltered by the great mysterious universe, an entity that is both dangerous and beautiful at the same time, just like life itself. The influence of the heart spread to areas seemingly far removed from astrophysics, such as economics. This phenomenon was quickly dubbed the heart effect. Here's how it works. Once the discovery was made public, countless companies quickly adopted its image for their marketing campaigns. Cars, watches, jewelry, even food products, everything was suddenly sold using slogans that somehow referenced the heart. We saw phrases like precision, like the heart of the universe, harmony in every drop, and tune into the rhythm of success. This imagery became synonymous with reliability, stability, harmony, and even a sense of elite prestige, a connection to a great cosmic secret. And it paid off. Sales of products associated with the heart skyrocketed. But the heart effect manifested on an even deeper level, the stock market. Analysts noticed a peculiar correlation. On days when new scientific papers were released with positive news about the heart, say confirmation of its complex structure, or evidence of its stability, the markets saw a small yet statistically significant uptick. Indices rose and volatility dipped. Conversely, when alarming hypotheses surfaced, for instance, theories about its potential danger, markets reacted with a slight downturn. It was as if the collective unconscious of investors was responding to this cosmic news, as if the state of this distant object was somehow linked to the global level of optimism or pessimism on our planet. Naturally, this wasn't the primary driver of market behavior, but it acted as that small weight that could tip the scales one way or the other. This phenomenon quickly became a subject of study for psychoeconomics, the science that explores how psychological factors influence financial decisions. It demonstrated just how irrational human behavior can be, even when large sums of money are involved. Our choices are driven not only by cold calculation, but by our deepest emotions, hopes, and fears. And these emotions can be triggered by events that seem to have no direct relevance to us, like the discovery of a tiny, pulsating light in a galaxy far, far away. This proves once again how interconnected we truly are, not just with each other, but with the entire universe. Our minds, our hearts, our wallets, they are all parts of one vast, complex, vibrating system. Once we grasp this, we start approaching our decisions differently. We realize that every choice we make, no matter how small, creates ripples that spread outwards. Our mission should be to make choices that bring harmony and order, rather than chaos and fear, into the world. And the very first, simplest choice we can make right now is the choice for calm, deep sleep. Because a well-rested, peaceful person is far more likely to make wise and balanced decisions the following day. Let's ask ourselves one final question before we completely drift off to sleep. What if the heart isn't a unique object? What if there are many of them? We've touched on this hypothesis before, but let's develop it further. Imagine that at the center of every void, every cosmic emptiness, there pulsates its own unique heart. They might all be different, with varying pulsation periods, different power outputs, and distinct signal melodies. Together they form a gigantic universal network, the neural network of the cosmos. Each void is a neuron, and the hearts at their centers are the nuclei of these neurons, periodically firing and sending out an impulse. What if these hearts are communicating with each other? What if the pulsation of one affects the rhythm of the others? We can't check this directly because the distances between the voids are immense. A signal would take billions of years to travel from one to the next. But perhaps they are connected not through physical space, but through some other means, through those same extra dimensions, or perhaps via quantum entanglement. If so, the cosmic web of galaxies isn't the universe's primary structure. It's just the skeleton, the musculoskeletal system. The true brain, the nervous system of the cosmos, is this invisible network of hearts pulsating within the void. And this network processes information. It thinks. Not in the way we do, with words and images, but on its own cosmic level, through rhythms and vibrations. It maintains the universe's fundamental homeostasis. It ensures its stability and facilitates its evolution. This vision of the world is breathtaking. The universe is not merely dead matter randomly coalescing into stars and galaxies. It is a single, living, thinking organism, and we live inside this organism. We are its cells. Our own consciousness is just a tiny spark, a faint reflection of this gigantic universal mind. This idea might seem frightening, yet it is profoundly comforting. It means we are not alone, that we are part of something incredibly vast, wise and beautiful, and that our lives have meaning even if we don't fully grasp it. That meaning is to be a good, healthy cell within this great organism, to live in harmony with its rhythms, to contribute our small part to its great thought. And sleep is one way to tune into this cosmic mind. When our personal, often ego-driven consciousness fades, we become more receptive to its quiet whisper. In sleep, we can receive answers to questions we couldn't solve during the day. We can glimpse new, unexpected solutions. We can simply rest, dissolve into this great, warm, loving consciousness. To finally feel at home, in the very heart of the universe. To conclude our long exploration, let us once again return to the central image, a light within the darkness, a pulse within the silence. This image holds incredible power because it speaks the language of life itself. Our entire existence is a constant rhythm, a pulsation, the inhale and the exhale, the heart's contraction and release, waking and sleeping, joy and sorrow. We are perpetually moving between these two poles. Yet we often fear one of them. We fear the exhale, the surrender, the sleep, the sadness. We cling fiercely to the inhale, to the tension, to wakefulness, to joy. We demand only light in our lives, but that is impossible. And perhaps that is wrong. For without darkness, there can be no light. Without silence, there is no sound. Without release, there is no tension. One defines the other. True harmony, then, is not about avoiding one pole and desperately striving for the other. It is about embracing them both. It is about learning to move gracefully between them, finding beauty in the light and in the darkness. The heart is the perfect teacher of this art. It does not shine constantly, it pulses. It embraces both the dark and the light. In this acceptance lies its strength, its very eternity. And when we learn this lesson from the heart, our lives become more harmonious. We stop fighting ourselves and the world. We begin to dance. We learn to dance in the rhythm of the universe. This dance brings us profound contentment and peace because we realize that everything is exactly where it should be, that everything is right. The darkness that envelops you now is not your enemy. It is your friend. It is a healing space where you can rest, recover, and gather strength. It is a cradle where you prepare for the new day, for the new light. Do not fear it. Trust it. Sink into it like a warm, gentle ocean. And know that at the very center of this darkness, deep within your soul, a small, unquenchable flame always burns bright. Your own personal heart. It will always be with you, pulsing in unison with the heart of the universe. Good night. This story about the heart is more than just a collection of facts and theories. It's a parable about the importance of looking where no one else bothers to look, about the necessity of listening to what others dismiss as mere silence. The modern world is overloaded with information, noise, and bright, flashy images. Our attention is constantly scattered. We merely skim the surface of things, never managing to dive into their true essence. We have forgotten how to sit in silence. We have forgotten how to be truly alone with ourselves. And in doing so, we have forgotten how to see miracles. That's because miracles don't scream for attention. They don't fill up our news feeds. They are modest and quiet. They hide in the most unremarkable things, in a child's smile, in a drop of dew clinging to a spider web, in the simple rhythm of our own breath, and in the faint, barely perceptible signal coming from the darkest, emptiest part of the universe. To see these wonders, it requires effort. The effort of slowing down, of tuning out the external noise and tuning in to your own inner silence. This is precisely what the astronomers who discovered the heart did. They aimed their telescope at the most boring region of the sky and listened patiently for years, and their patience paid off. They heard music where everyone else only heard static. This is a lesson for every one of us. If we want to find something truly valuable, something authentic in our lives, we must master this art, the art of attentive, patient listening. Listening to the world, listening to other people, and most importantly, listening to ourselves. When we quiet down, when we stop fussing and rushing, we start to hear the gentle voice of our intuition, the voice of our heart. And that voice always speaks the truth. It always shows us the right way. It always leads us toward the light, even when it feels like we are surrounded by impenetrable darkness. And now is the perfect time for this practice, the time before sleep. When the day's hustle has settled, when the world is quiet. Try not just to fall asleep. Try to listen. Listen to the stillness in your room. Listen to your own breathing. Listen to the steady rhythm of your heart. And perhaps in that silence you will hear the echo of that great cosmic music, and it will carry you into the most beautiful and healing dreams. Let's imagine that the story of the heart wasn't an ending, but merely a beginning. The dawn of a new era in understanding the cosmos. An era where we begin to study not just matter, but everything that lies beyond its physical boundaries, consciousness, information, and the very fabric of space-time itself. The heart has become the key that unlocked this new door for us. What awaits us on the other side? Perhaps we will discover that the universe is far more alive than we ever realized. That it isn't merely a mechanical collection of particles following blind laws, but rather a complex, self-organizing and evolving system. A system that possesses a purpose. What is that purpose? We don't know yet. Perhaps the goal is the constant birth of increasingly complex forms of consciousness, from atoms to molecules, from molecules to cells, from cells to living beings, then to a planetary consciousness, and finally reaching for the cosmic. And you and I are crucial links in that chain. Our mission is to develop our own consciousness, to make it clearer, kinder, and more loving, thereby contributing to the overall evolution of the universe. This is a profoundly responsible and inspiring mission. It fills our fleeting lives with immense meaning. We are not here by accident. We are the eyes through which the universe gazes upon itself. We are the ears through which it listens to its own music. We are the heart with which it feels its own inherent beauty. And when we grasp this, we stop feeling isolated and lost. We feel ourselves to be part of a vast, unending process of creation. This feeling is the most reliable remedy for all existential fears. It gives us the strength to live, to create, to love, and to fall asleep peacefully with confidence that tomorrow will bring new discoveries, new wonders, and new opportunities for growth. The universe never rests, and neither do we, moving from darkness toward light, from simplicity toward complexity, from unconsciousness toward awareness. This path is infinite, and it is beautiful. May your journey be peaceful, both in the world of dreams and in the world of reality. As our story draws to a close, let's explore one final metaphor gifted to us by the heart, the image of the lighthouse. Picture a lonely beacon standing on a craggy shore, surrounded by a furious sea. At night, during the height of a storm, its beam is the only hope for lost ships. It cannot quell the tempest. It cannot shift the direction of the wind. It simply shines. Steady, rhythmic, predictable. And that is all it needs to do. Its light pierces the darkness and guides the way to a safe harbor. The heart is precisely such a cosmic lighthouse. It resides in the ocean of the great void, sending its signal outward in all directions. Who is this signal for? We don't know. Perhaps for others like us, for civilizations just beginning to venture into the cosmic ocean, feeling small and solitary in its boundless expanse. And this signal tells them, you are not alone. There is an anchor here. There is order. There is light. And this message contains no instructions. It doesn't tell them where to sail. It simply offers hope. It simply reminds us that even in the fiercest storm there is a point of stability, a constant against which we can orient ourselves. This metaphor holds profound significance for our own lives. We all face storms, periods of chaos, uncertainty, and despair, moments when we feel we have lost our course, driven toward the rocks. In those moments, we all need a lighthouse, something that will shine for us in the darkness. For some, this is faith. For others, the love of family. For others, still, dedication to their life's work. And for some, it is simply the memory of something good and bright. Everyone has their own beacon. It is crucial to find it and to keep its light burning in your soul. And when night falls, when the storm rises, we can close our eyes and see it, see that steady, tranquil, pulsing glow. It will give us strength. It will help us stay true to our path. It will guide us through any tempest. The heart is a universal lighthouse for all humanity, a symbol that reminds us we share something profound, a common hope, a shared home, the universe itself, and a common direction, the path toward the light. And now, as you prepare to embark on your own nightly journey across the ocean of dreams, remember this beacon. Know that it shines for you, and its light will guard your sleep until the morning, until the new dawn. Throughout our exploration of the heart, we've touched upon science, philosophy, and psychology. But there is one more essential language through which we must speak of it, the language of poetry. This phenomenon is simply too beautiful and too mysterious to be confined to dry, clinical terminology. It demands metaphors, vivid imagery, and deep emotion. Allow me to close with a short poem dedicated to this subject. I hope it helps you find the right state of mind, allowing the waves of poetry to carry you gently into the world of dreams. In the core of a cold and starless expanse, where midnight is endless and stillness holds sway, where time stands arrested in slumbering trance, the universe breathes, and breathes you today. Not a passionate breath, nor a guttural plea, but the steady pulsation of light and of shade. As if someone, vast and supremely strange, counts the slow ticking hours of winter's parade. It flares up with hope, then softly releases, leaving the memory of white, burning light. And in that pure flickering, clearer than clearness, you see your true self in the depth of the night. You see that your deepest anxieties are shadows. That pain is the moment a sunbeam must cease. There are no steep steps, no ultimate sorrows, just the cosmic choreography, candle to peace, and your own heart, now moving in rhythm with light, reclaims its forgotten primordial beat. With its final response and its first soft whisper, it speaks to you. Rest now. The world is complete. It breathes and it waits and embraces your being in living darkness that knows no degree. And in that deep darkness, for you it is seeing, the farthest yet dearest, most intimate to thee. Pulsing and warm like the touch of a mother, a beacon for all the lost ships in the strand. A cure for your hurt and forgetting of sorrow, and quietest music. Beyond any word. Let these words be your lullaby tonight. Let them remind you that you are not merely a body requiring rest. You are poetry. You are music. You are a part of the grand, mysterious, and beautiful epic poem that the universe is constantly writing about itself. And your sleep is simply the next stanza in that poem. May it be light, bright, and filled with wonder. Good night. The story of the discovery of the heart offers us another crucial lesson, a lesson in the value of the unknown. In our achievement-oriented, results-driven culture, we often view the unknown negatively. We see it as a problem that must be solved and fast. We demand answers to every question. We want control over every situation. We want certainty about tomorrow. And when we encounter something that doesn't fit neatly into our established frameworks, something mysterious and unexplained, we feel discomfort and anxiety. But the heart reveals that the unknown holds its own beauty and power. It is the very mystery surrounding it that makes it so captivating. The absence of a final, definitive answer compels us to think, to dream, and to create. If we had immediately known, for instance, that it was simply an unusual type of pulsar, the story would have ended right there. We would have checked a box, catalogued the object, and moved on to the next thing. But as long as the mystery remains alive, it stirs our imagination, it pushes the boundaries of our thinking, it forces us into a state of humility, of recognizing how much we still don't know. This is a deeply healthy condition for the human mind, a state of openness, curiosity, and wonder. It's the state of a child exploring the world, and it is the precise condition in which we are most capable of learning and growth. Perhaps we should learn to embrace the unknown in our own lives too. Stop fearing uncertainty, stop demanding instantaneous answers from ourselves and from the world, Allow some questions to remain open. Allow some mysteries to remain mysteries. This doesn't mean abandoning the search. It means learning to savor the process of seeking, not just the result. To enjoy the journey itself rather than only the arrival at the destination. When we do this, our lives become far more interesting and enriching. Life stops being a mere checklist of solved problems and transforms into a captivating adventure. Sleep is also a small journey into the unknown. We don't know what we will dream. We cannot control it. And that is its sheer beauty. It's an opportunity to release control, to trust our subconscious mind, and to venture into a world where anything is possible. So let us embark on this journey without fear, with curiosity, with the anticipation of the wonders that surely await us in the silence and the darkness of this night. When we examine the phenomenon known as the heart, we inevitably confront the question of our place in the universe. For a long time, ever since the era of Copernicus, science has followed a trajectory we might call the decentralization of humanity. First, we discovered that Earth wasn't the center of the cosmos, then that the Sun was just one of billions of stars in our galaxy, and finally, that our galaxy itself is merely one among hundreds of billions. With every new discovery, we felt increasingly insignificant, tiny, lost specks of dust adrift in a cold, vast emptiness. This perspective gave rise to what is often called cosmic pessimism, a profound sense of meaninglessness and abandonment. But the discovery of the heart may mark the beginning of a new phase, one we can call re-centralization. Not in the outdated geocentric sense, but in a new anthropic way. The anthropic principle in cosmology posits that the universe possesses exactly the properties it does because only such a universe could possibly produce an observer, namely us. Had the fundamental physical constants been even slightly different, neither stars, nor planets, nor life, nor consciousness would have been able to form. This suggests that we are not merely accidental byproducts. Our existence seems fundamentally woven into the very fabric of creation. And the discovery of the heart amplifies this feeling because it is an object that appears perfectly tuned to our perception. Its rhythm echoes our biological rhythms. Its image resonates with our deepest archetypes. Its mystery stimulates both our scientific curiosity and our creative thought. It's as if the universe specifically fashioned this enigma for us, so that by solving it, we might take the next step in our evolution. This is admittedly a very bold idea. But it completely changes our perspective. We are not just dust. We are the universe's dialogue partners. It poses questions to us in the form of phenomena like the heart, and we respond with our theories, our works of art, and our own spiritual growth. And within this dialogue, meaning is born, the very meaning of our existence. We are here to know, to feel, and to reflect the beauty and complexity of creation. That is a profoundly worthy and high mission. When we realize this, we are filled with a deep sense of dignity, not arrogance, but a quiet, calm assurance of our own worth. And with that feeling, it is incredibly easy and pleasant to fall asleep. The feeling that you are exactly where you belong, that you are needed, that you are the beloved child of the universe, and that it is tenderly tucking you in with its dark, starry blanket, whispering its most intimate secrets into your ear while you sleep. As we wrap up our discussion, let's turn our minds toward the deep future. Millions of years have passed. Humanity has changed beyond recognition. Perhaps we shed our biological forms and evolved into beings of pure light or pure information. We've scattered across the entire galaxy, having unlocked many of the universe's greatest secrets. Yet the heart is still there, in the center of its great void, and it continues to pulsate with the same rhythm, the same unwavering precision. For this future, super-evolved civilization, it has become something like an eternal monument, a reminder of the past, of a time when the universe still seemed vast and mysterious, a time when their ancestors, us, first heard its voice. And for these future beings who may communicate telepathically and travel between dimensions, that simple, monotonous signal sounds like a nostalgic melody from their childhood, like an old lullaby. They might journey to it just to be in the silence, to take a break from their hyper-complex, hyper-speed existence, to remember something simple, fundamental, and eternal. In this sense, the heart is not just a mystery from the past, it is also a message to the future, a message that certain values transcend time, values of order, harmony, rhythm, and stillness. No matter how far we advance, we will always need these simple things. We will always need to occasionally stop, fall silent, and listen to the heartbeat of the universe. Because it is our own heart too, this thought, the connection between eras, the continuity of life and knowledge, is profoundly comforting. It tells us that we are not the final link. Our efforts, our discoveries, our dreams will not vanish without a trace. They will become part of a great legacy that we pass on to those who come after us. This gives our lives meaning on the grandest cosmic scale. We are the bridge between the past and the future. And we must be a good, reliable bridge. And to be that bridge, we must care for ourselves. We need rest. We need sleep to recharge the energy required for this construction. So let us do just that. Let us thankfully accept the gift of the night and allow ourselves to dissolve into this great flow of time, which carries us from eternity to eternity under the measured, lulling beat of the heart. And so our long journey toward the heart of darkness draws to a close. We began with a barely perceptible signal, a mystery that stumped humanity's greatest minds. We navigated labyrinths of hypotheses and theories, from exotic stars to windows into other universes. We watched as a scientific discovery transformed into a cultural phenomenon, a wellspring of inspiration for artists, musicians, and poets alike. We touched upon the deepest questions of existence, the nature of light and shadow, the meaning of our being, our place in the great symphony of the cosmos. What is this heart, truly? We still don't know. And perhaps that is its greatest gift. It didn't provide us with final answers. Instead, it gave us something far more valuable, a sense of wonder. It reminded us that the universe is not a boring textbook full of solved equations, but a magical, mysterious book we have only just begun to read. The most astonishing twist in this story is that by gazing into that cosmic abyss, we ultimately caught a glimpse of our own reflection. We realized that the rhythm of this distant object resonates with the beat of our own hearts, that its mystery awakens our own curiosity, that its harmony heals our very souls. The journey to the center of the universe turned out to be a journey to the center of ourselves. Thank you for spending this time with me. Thank you for allowing this story to lull you. I hope it brought you peace and tranquility. If you enjoyed this journey, please subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new sleep lectures. Give this video a like. It helps us out tremendously. And of course, share your thoughts in the comments below. And my question for you tonight is this. What do you believe might be hidden behind this mysterious signal? What secret does the heart of the universe hold? Share your boldest and most beautiful ideas as you drift off into a deep, restorative sleep. Good night, and may your dreams be sweet and cosmic.